The first time I saw him, blood was on his hands and none of it was his own. The second time, he had a gun to my head. War changes the way you see people. In the middle of an interstellar battlefield, morality doesn't have the luxury of being black and white. I was an Omega medic assigned to the forward lines, stitching up soldiers who screamed, bled, and died faster than I could save them. And he was Captain Rylan Kale, the most feared Alpha in the 7th Fleet. Cold, ruthless, untouchable. We were never supposed to be bonded. Hell, I wasn't supposed to even talk to him outside of official orders. But fate, or maybe the cruel joke of the military's pairing system, decided otherwise. Our first week together was a silent war in itself. He ignored me unless he had to speak, and when he did, his voice was sharp as shattered glass. I thought he hated me. I thought I hated him too. But things have a way of shifting in the quiet moments between explosions. It started the night our outpost was bombed. The air smelled like burning metal, and the ground trembled with each distant blast. I was pulling shrapnel from a soldier's leg when a shadow fell over me. "Drop it. We're moving out." I looked up into Ryland's steel-gray eyes, breath catching against my will. He didn't ask. He commanded. His gloved hand wrapped around my wrist, pulling me to my feet before I could argue. My body went tense, instinct screaming against the way his touch made my pulse stutter. "There are wounded," I began. "They'll be dead in 3 minutes if we don't get the hell out." He cut in. "Move, Omega." His voice was the kind of cold that should have frozen me from the inside out. But underneath it, there was something else, something almost like fear. The evac shuttle was packed, the heat and stench pressing in from every side. I sat wedged between 2 crates of weapons, my knees almost touching Ryland's where he crouched in front of me, checking his rifle with mechanical precision. "You could have left me?" I muttered before I could stop myself. His head lifted, eyes locking on mine. "That's not how I fight." I didn't know what to say to that. Days blurred into weeks. The war pushed us from planet to planet, always one step ahead of annihilation. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, something inside Ryland began to crack. He started bringing me food when he thought I hadn't eaten. He positioned himself between me and danger without a word. And once, when an enemy ambush left me trapped under rubble, he tore through solid metal to reach me, hands bleeding, eyes wild. That was the first time he said my name without barking it like an order. "Eli," he breathed, voice trembling. "You're not allowed to die on me." I didn't realize I was crying until his thumb brushed away a tear. But nothing stays safe in war. On the eve of the siege of Atlas Prime, orders came down. Ryland was to lead a suicide mission to destroy the enemy's primary shield generator. The mission had a 5% survival chance. I confronted him in the dim light of the supply tent. "You're not going." His jaw tightened. "It's my duty." "I don't give a damn about duty." My voice cracked. The words stuck in my throat. The battlefield wasn't a place for confessions. Not when tomorrow wasn't promised. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. "Eli, if I don't make it back, don't you dare say that." His hand came up, cupping the back of my neck in a way that made my knees weaken. "Then listen to me. I'll always find my way back to you, no matter what." And before I could process it, his lips were on mine. Fierce, desperate, like the world was ending, and maybe it was. The next morning, he was gone. I worked on the triage lines for hours, patching up soldiers whose blood soaked through my gloves until I couldn't tell where theirs ended and mine began. But every blast in the distance felt like it might be the one that took him from me. Night fell. The shield generator was destroyed, and Ryland didn't return. When they brought back the survivors, he wasn't among them. Something in me shattered. I told myself Omegas like me weren't meant to love Alphas like him, warriors carved from steel and fire. I told myself it had been a mistake from the start. But grief has a way of stripping away every lie you tell yourself. Because no matter how much I wanted to believe he was gone, my bond with him pulsed faintly in the back of my mind. Alive. Faint but alive. The bond between an Omega and Alpha is not supposed to lie. And mine was telling me he was still out there. I couldn't sit in the safety of the medical tent while Rylan bled out somewhere in the ruins of Atlas Prime. So I did the only thing that made sense. I left. The streets were barely streets anymore, just jagged bones of buildings under a smoke-filled sky. The enemy's retreat had turned into a scorched earth, their ships tearing the planet apart as they fled. I moved fast, rifle slung across my back, my heart beating to the faint, unshakable rhythm of the bond pulling me forward. It led me to the collapsed shell of a command center. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and the copper tang of blood. And then I saw him. Rylan was slumped against a wall, his left arm bound in a makeshift tourniquet, a deep gash running down his temple. His uniform was torn, blackened from blast burns. But he was breathing. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands trembling as I pressed them against his chest. "You stupid, stubborn bastard," I whispered, voice breaking. "You were supposed to come back to me." His eyes fluttered open, hazy with pain, and then, slowly, recognition sharpened them. "Eli." I wanted to yell at him, to shake him until the stubbornness fell out of him. But instead, I cupped his face, brushing away dirt and blood. "I told you not to say goodbye." And he smiled, a small, almost broken thing before collapsing against me. Getting him out of Atlas Prime was hell. The evac point was miles away, and he could barely walk. I had to half-carry him, my shoulder under his arm, his weight heavy but grounding. Enemy drones swept the streets, but every time I thought we were caught, Rylan's hand tightened on mine, steadying me like he was the one keeping me upright. We made it to the shuttle just as it was about to lift off. The hatch slammed shut behind us, and for the first time in days, I let myself breathe. Recovery was slow. The med bay smelled of antiseptic and recycled air, the hum of the ship's engines a constant backdrop. Rylan hated lying still, but every time he tried to get up, I shoved him back down with a glare. "You nearly died," I reminded him one night, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. "Twice." He studied me, his gaze softer than I'd ever seen it. "You came for me." I swallowed hard. "Of course I did. You could have been killed. Then we'd both be dead. And at least I wouldn't have to live in a world without you." The words slipped out before I could stop them. My cheeks flushed, but Rylan didn't tease me. He just reached out, his fingers brushing over the back of my hand. "Eli," he said, his voice low and steady. "I fought this war for 100 reasons. None of them mattered until you. The war didn't end overnight. There were still battles ahead, still blood to be spilled. But after Atlas Prime, something between us had changed." He stopped keeping his distance. I stopped pretending I didn't want to be near him. We shared stolen moments in the chaos, a shared blanket in the barracks, a quiet conversation under alien stars, the brush of his lips against mine before heading into danger. And one night, as the fleet hung silent above a planet we'd fought hard to protect, Rylan stood beside me on the observation deck, his reflection ghosted against the stars. "I used to think I'd die alone," he said. "It seemed easier that way." I turned to him, my chest aching in that bittersweet way it always did around him. "And now," he met my gaze, the corners of his mouth lifting in something like hope. "Now I know what I'm fighting for." I didn't need to ask what he meant. The bond between us pulsed, warm and steady, not the fragile thread it had been, but something unbreakable. And in that moment, even with the war still raging beyond the glass, I believed him. Because Rylan Kale, the coldest alpha in the fleet, had just given me the one thing no one else could in the middle of a war: the future. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.